So that was a tumultuous journey of 9 months. We ended up as a refugee in India. My eldest brother, who was a 17-year-old who joined the freedom fight, and sadly, he has never come back. He paid his yesterday for my tomorrow.
My name is Jonny Ball, and I'm the founder of Campaign Force, a not-for-profit that inspires, trains, and coaches the armed forces community to stand up and serve again. I've served on the front line of military operations and in civilian life, the front line of UK politics. This Veterans in Politics podcast is a set of interviews brought to you by Campaign Force and sets out to explore how the military community can help make our politics a better place. I lean into my little black book of contacts and sit down with individuals from across the world of politics, sharing secrets, giving tips and advice, and inspiring the next generation. We are Campaign Force. This is the Veterans in Politics podcast. Let's introduce you to our guest.
Jonny chats with Councillor Imran Chowdhury BEM about his amazing journey from Bangladeshi refugee to recently being honoured by the Queen. Imran reveals the sadness of losing his brother in conflict and how his early life gave him a deep appreciation of both Britain and democracy. So much so that he is now a democratically elected councillor here in the UK. It's time for you to meet our guest.
This podcast, Veterans in Politics, is all about having as many voices from across the globe now and from local government right up until Parliament and beyond, devolved government too. We've had a whole range of guests, but you are our very first guest from Bangladesh. So that's very exciting.
It certainly is. I'm very excited because my military background from Bangladesh and then coming back to UK and utilizing that and going into the local politics in the county level is something actually has literally epitomized my quest of achieving something in life.
Now, our listeners won't know, but we're actually friends, and I was your agent and responsible for getting you elected. So we've spent a lot of time together campaigning, and it's an absolute delight to see you elected for the very first time. But before we get into all of that, Imran, I know we've spoken about it personally, but from the very beginning, can you tell us a little bit about your military service in Bangladesh and the impact that this has had on you in your life?
Thank you, Jonny. Yes, I owe a great deal of gratitude to you for all your support and how you have organized the campaigning. It was very hard because the division that I was nominated for was one of the very, very unsure seats. But with your guidance, with the hard work, I think we have come through very well. And I have a lot of gratitude and a lot of homage to pay to you for your excellent professional work. I must say that.
Oh, don't you're flattering me. No.
That's true, Jonny. You know that. I don't mince my word. I express my views, and I always talk if I feel good, and I express my feelings. But to go back to your question about my career and my life in Bangladesh Army, well, to be honest with you, I had a very turbulent life since 1971 when the Bangladesh Liberation War happened. My father was in the Rifles and we were living in a different town from where my father was stationed. And from the day the crackdown happened on the 25th of March, 1971, we became refugee. We became homeless. We had no other choice but to evacuate the town that we were living. So that was a tumultuous journey of 9 months. We ended up as a refugee in India. My eldest brother, who was a 17-year-old who joined the freedom fight, and sadly, he has never come back. He paid his yesterday for my tomorrow. Now, then from 71, I was a refugee. And 1981, after I finished my higher secondary school exam, I was selected to join Bangladesh Military Academy. At that time, when the military government was ruling Bangladesh, joining the army as a commissioned officer to be selected in Bangladesh Military Academy to become a gentleman cadet was one of the most highest honored job that was there in Bangladesh at the time. So I joined Bangladesh Military Academy on the 7th of August 1981. I was commissioned in Bangladesh Army in the Infantry Regiment, the East Bengal Regiment, on the 10th of June 1983. My journey in the Army was, I must say, it was one of the best. I mean, I have thoroughly enjoyed my life in the Army. I was commissioned in an infantry regiment, which was fondly called as Ferocious 14. It was the 14th Regiment of the East Bengal Regiment. And as a lieutenant, second lieutenant, I had the opportunity to serve a battalion where there are about 700 troops. And I was the third officer in the regiment. My commanding officer, my adjutant, who was a lieutenant, and I was the only second lieutenant. So from the regimentation onward, after about first 42 days, I was literally thrown into the deeper end of the battalion administration, i.e. I was 5 company commanders, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and the headquarter company commander. I was signing documents. I was writing annual confidential reports for the NCOs and the JCOs. That means the junior commissioned officers. And just within 6 months, I have gathered a 360-degree knowledge as to how an officer can manage a regiment. So I had no other choice but to do it. Of course, my CO was very professional and my adjutant helped me, but I was literally thrown at the deeper end. And when you were thrown in the deeper end, you have like 250 court of inquiries to do. You are the only president of the court of inquiry with 3 other JCOs. And you learn whilst you do the job. And that was perhaps one of the best teaching that I have had in my life. And it was like 700 troops. I knew most of them off by their first name. My problem with the deepen setup in the army was predominantly people who were trying to establish a kind of a military regime in Bangladesh. Democracy was thrown at the deeper end. And I just reconnected that 12, 13 years ago when my brother paid his life to become an independent country in order for us to have a democratic government, where my father has endured 164 operations in the 9 months of the Liberation War. He was injured, was in hospital for a month and a half, again came back to war. He is one of the gallant freedom fighters of the country. And I was a refugee, endured the most precarious life in a refugee camp. I can talk about it all night, but to see that my country again going back, like following the footsteps of the Pakistan army, they're again trying to capture the power in the country to run a military regime. I did not subscribe to that, so I had no choice. But on moral ground, I made an exit from the army, and here I am. After all this year, I'm here for the last 30 years. And today I'm elected as a councillor by a direct vote of the constituents of the residents of my district. And I'm probably the first Bangladeshi commissioned officer in the whole of the world who has become a directly elected, democratically elected member of a council. And this is something that I'm very proud of. And that was the journey, actually. And but having said that, army is an institution. If you take that profession seriously, it embodies everything that a man needs to know in order for him to lead a life of discipline, a life of camaraderie, a life of sense of honesty, duty to and extreme hard work. I mean, that's where is a teaching ground for any human being to learn a profession where it literally embodies every aspect of life. I mean, And to translate that into politics, I think it's imperative that I should be able to do excel, if not better than anybody else.
Do you know what, Imran? One of the reasons I got you on the show is because I knew you could talk. And but to be honest with you, your story is just so, I mean, obviously the tragedy from those things that have happened to you in your life, and the deep link that you have with democracy and how you view and value democracy. It all makes so much sense to me now from when we first met, and I can see why you cherish democracy so much, and I can see, why you've stood up to serve again in local government, which is really important. But so when you came to the UK, what was it like when you first came to the UK from Bangladesh?
UK, I mean, bear in mind, if you go back to the pages of the history, uh, Bengal was the gateway to the Indian colonial past, because that's when, in 1757, the East India Company actually entered into India with trading rights and everything. And from there till 1947, was the time when we were made independent and we got divided. I mean, for us, in my family, we always had a connection with the UK. My grandfather served in the First World War with the Bengal Ambulance Corps, with 6th Pune Division, which was in Mesopotamia at the time. And
Wow.
then my father went back to India in 1923, and he served in the Calcutta, the only five-star hotel in Calcutta, Bengal Grand Hotel, till 1946. So, I mean, in our family, we had a lot of good feelings. We had a lot of teachings. My mother was a graduate in 1954. She served in the government of Pakistan. My father served. And to come to UK was very natural for us, actually, because the association that we have, I mean, my ancestors' association with the British authorities in India, or vis-a-vis Bangladesh, which is now Bangladesh, used to be East Pakistan. Before that, it used to be Bengal. So we had a lot of trading relations with the East India Company from my family, and then from the British, British government in India, Indian government. So we had ICS officers. My grandfather's cousins were British Indian police officers, Indian civil servants, and all of that. So for us, the transition from Bangladesh to UK was very easy for us. To come here and to acclimatize with the British society was not very hard.
Yeah, it makes complete sense to me. All that service that your family has done for, yeah, over the 20th century is phenomenal. From the First World War till until your own service too, and it won't escape our listeners to see that in your name at the end you have the title, the postnominals BEM, the British Empire Medal. So congratulations again for that phenomenal achievement. And you're a well-known businessman in the county of Northamptonshire and beyond. And I mean, to get such a huge award, I mean, what was that in recognition of, Imran? Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about that work?
Trust me, Johnny, this receiving the honor from Her Majesty the Queen, it just, I never ever dreamt of it. And
Yeah, yeah.
to receive such an honor is probably perhaps one of the most joyous moments in my life. The reason I was given was my service to the British Bangladeshi community and the mainstream community. What I have been trying for the last 20 odd years is to create more cohesion in the society, create more interfaith cohesion, because we have a lot of acrimonious kind of, feelings that people don't understand because of the lack of knowledge, lack of interaction with each other, lack of language. So I was trying to break those taboos and the barriers to have more cohesion in the society. And hence, I don't know who was this important person who thought I deserve an award and have recommended me. Maybe not one, maybe few of them have recommended me, and I have received that for my work in cohesion, integration, interfaith, and youth work, and to create a more stronger Britain where every BAME and the mainstream society has a stake. And it's just combining all the cultures, the religions, the ethos together, so that we have a stronger society in the United Kingdom.
That's phenomenal. The work that you've done and that approach. We need more Imrans in our country, and that approach. So it's phenomenal. So congratulations again. It was brilliant to see. And in terms of your work, you've now transitioned, another transition. You seem to always be reinventing yourself into local government. But why did you get involved with politics in the first place? And what do you hope to achieve in your role as a local councillor, but in a strategic authority with a lot of responsibility too?
Thank you, Jonny. Actually, I do Conservative Party. I'm sure you are aware of it, because it is a kind of a reparation, to be honest with you, in the sense that when I was a refugee in India, we got very matured with the world politics, because in a refugee camp, all they talk about is which country is helping us, which country is not helping us, where are we going to get the relief from, who is supporting us at the United Nations, who is actually vetoing against us. So all of that I was hearing when I was 11 years old. So at that time, for some reason, I became very accustomed with the world politics, geopolitics. I mean, just imagine, for a young 11-year-old, he knew who was Brezhnev, who was Uthant, who was Callahan, who was British Prime Minister, who was Kissinger, who was Gerald Ford, because these were the topics that was always discussed in the refugee camp, to see a ray of light, which country is going to ease our suffering. And in that easing, British Conservative MPs were every other day visiting our camps. The British MPs were visiting our camps. The ministers, the Secretary of States were visiting our camps. Oxfam, this was like the God-sent messiahs for us in the refugee camp. So from then onwards, you start to grow a kind of a feeling that, oh my God, when my life was thrown in the deeper end of the pond, these were the people who actually looked out for us and came to rescue us and save us. Hence, when I came into this country, I thought I saw most of the immigrant communities are into the other camp. So I thought, no, let me represent the party which has helped me. And if you remember, the Prime Minister of United Kingdom broke all the protocol and went and received our leader of the nation. So it was like United Kingdom has put a stamp on Bangladesh. It is like giving a recognition to Bangladesh. So those are the things which actually prompted me to serve the Conservative Party. And I've always been campaigning, I've always been leafleting, and I've been doing everything that a member can do. But when this unitary project was coming up, and the divisions and the changes of the spectrum of the democracy, I thought I could play a role in it. And from my constituency, i.e. the division that I represent, was predominantly served by member of other political parties, but most of the people here would probably get more benefit if we have a Conservative member as the councillor of this division. So these are the things that prompted me, and I think I have a transferable skill that many wouldn't have, which I can probably employ into my new job and serve my residents far better than many other people. Hence the reason I have opted to become a councillor.
Well, it looks and sounds like you're enjoying it to me. That's for sure.
I certainly am.
And to go back slightly to your links with the Commonwealth, do you think that the Commonwealth has a healthy future going forward? And what are the benefits, such as Bangladesh, and also the benefits for the UK too, in having a relationship within the Commonwealth, would you say?
Commonwealth is huge for Bangladesh, and Commonwealth in itself is huge. I mean, you are looking at it's a association of all the ex-colonies 53. You are looking at 1.5 billion people. And if you look at the GDP itself, is the combined GDP of the Commonwealth is something that it can mutually benefit all the members. And this is something the Commonwealth actually embodies all those people with. We have a shared culture, we have a shared economics, we have shared values, we have, we have been part of each other for well over 250 years for many countries. So this association, I think, is very important. Commonwealth is respected. I mean, I come from a colonial country. I know how valuable and how respected this association is back home. And we take huge pride as a Bangladeshi, as a government of Bangladesh. I have seen in my past life when I was serving in the army, and that the Commonwealth is valued very high, and that association, it is a soft power actually, which helps foreign policy, which helps geopolitics, which helps military alliances, which actually helps to dissipate any other threats that can emanate from any other country or some despots or dictators and others. So I think it is, as it is valued in the UK, it is valued in our country and vis-a-vis other countries as a massive bilateral, collateral, multilateral association. And that's very important. That's very important, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I really agree with you. I'm a massive fan of the Commonwealth. I just think it enriches us all so much these days, and Her Majesty the Queen has been a phenomenal servant of that as well. But you mentioned, just talking then about some of the threats that we jointly face together as an international community. What are the kind of threats that Bangladesh is facing right now? We've seen the tragedies of some of the environmental threats in recent history, and indeed, we all face similar threats across the world these days. But specifically, with your kind of military hat on as well, I guess, what are the kind of threats that Bangladesh is facing in 2021?
Thank you, Jonny. Yes, Bangladesh. The threats that I can see is, bear in mind, we're a ticking time bomb in terms of environmental catastrophe. I mean, if the sea level rises further few centimeters, you are looking at a big chunk of Bangladesh is going to go underwater. And Bangladesh has always been one of the biggest trading partner. If you look at the history, from 1674, Bangladesh and UK was one of the most ongoing trading relations that we have. I mean, bear in mind, in 1790s, before the Lancashire trade boom started, Bengal was exporting 790,000 tons of textiles to UK. This is something. A, B, the Dundee whole industry of jute and carpet and everything was actually the jute in Bangladesh or all over the world is called the golden fiber, and we are the highest producer of jute. So that's another trading relation. But the environmental threat is the biggest threat. But on top of that, I would be very honest that there is a threat, geopolitical threat in Bangladesh, in Bay of Bengal region, and in the Indian Ocean, is actually coming from a country we fondly call them Middle Kingdom. So there is a threat because, firstly, it's a geopolitical threat that they want to have control over Bay of Bengal. I mean, bear in mind, Bay of Bengal is one of the largest bays in the world. It is the only, it provides a almost 180-degree access to the belly of the Indian Ocean. And Indian Ocean is the ocean which carries 42.3%, my last statistics was, of the world trade. Now, Bay of Bengal has been predominantly shared by Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, a bit of Indonesia, and the islands, the Blair Islands and all. Now, a country is eyeing on that. They're actually now trying to entice the poorer, underdeveloped countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, even Thailand, even in the deeper seas. You are looking at the what do you call that island we have, Gayum Abdul was the, I can't remember the name at this moment. So these island countries are also at threat, because what can happen is they have the money and they are giving loan and turning that loan into a debt trap, which then allows them to act as bailiff to take over those strategic investment that they have made in terms of making deep sea ports and channels and riverine routes. So this can be actually a threat which might endanger the independence of those countries. So this is a big threat that we have. And then another threat that is coming is, if you are looking at the China-India kerfuffle that's happening in the Himalayas. Now, bear in mind, as a small officer, I know that no soldier can fight at an altitude of 16, 17,000 feet. You need an oxygen canister at the back to fight. So the fight or physical skirmishes are not going to happen, or battles are not going to happen up in the Himalayas. So in order for anyone to really attack or do something to unsettle India, would probably have to indulge into entering India or Indian fronts through Bangladesh, because we have India covered in three sides. We are bordered by India by three sides, and then we have Myanmar. So if you go back to the Second World War, the Forgotten Army and all of that, the 14th Army, the Japanese wanted to enter into this soft corner of Myanmar through Thailand and through Bangladesh. So I'm just worried that that threat, is it going to culminate into Chinese boots in Bangladeshi soil in order for them to enter into India and to unsettle the whole region? This is an impending threat, to my understanding, and I feel that the world need to look into it and try and quell it before it really goes any farther. And that is a big threat, because Bangladesh is one of the highly populous country in the world. We have 160 million people, and with most densely populated. And also the world is also dependent on the production of textiles and garments from Bangladesh. I mean, we are the second largest garment exporter in the country. Now, if something goes wrong, and if that's tranquility, peace, and the production is hampered, it might certainly unsettle the European market, i.e. UA, even UK and America. So these are the threats that can emanate from our part of the world. And I think the world ought to look at, I mean, I was hearing that the UK government is coming up with Kanzak kind of an association or an alliance, even the Quad. The America is trying to come up with another alliance, Quad. So I think this kind of quid pro quo kind of thing for NATO kind of thing in our part of the world would be an element of peace of mind for the people of that region. Otherwise, there can be an impending threat.
Wow. I'm pretty speechless to hear that sort of geopolitical commentary about Bangladesh, and I've learned so much myself just from you, Imran. And I guess, but with the opposite of threats are obviously opportunities. So let's hope to see that on the basis of our Commonwealth and those established relationships that we have, we can actually see more about the opportunities rather than the threats. But I guess the threat that we 100% all share, as you mentioned, is the environment. And now, as a local councillor, you're going to have a direct impact on some of the policies within your community around the environment. Would you say that your experience of coming from Bangladesh and your unique understanding of the direct impact on the environment has shaped the way that you might approach your local politics, would you say?
Yes, it does. Yes, it's actually, if you have the suspicious kind of awareness of the impending threat that it can pose, and you can see back home, and if you try and improve situations or environmental issues here, which you can see, I can see, I mean, I have lived in 24 places in Bangladesh because of my father and mother's government service, and I went to 14 schools in Bangladesh to just qualify my O levels. So I have, and those places I have been, those places are getting inundated, the deforestation, the environmental catastrophe happening every day in, day out. And now, coming from that country, I think I can contribute so much to make people aware of the issues that can lead to an environmental catastrophe in this country, because planting trees is very important, keeping the environmental clean is very important. The erosions are very important, the floodplains, and how to, even have less amount of carbon emission in your houses. These are the things I can perhaps be very instrumental to go and talk to my residents, very small, but small sometimes goes into a bigger scale. So if I start with something, talking to my residents, telling them to be more cautious, more aware, more vigilant about the environmental issues that we have in our hand. We are going to have this COP26 in November, where all the world is going to emerge here and to talk about the environmental issues that the world is facing. You look at the rain last night, what happened in London. I was stuck there for 6 hours. The half of East London was inundated underwater, and there was like it's a river actually. So these are the things that our children ought to know, and that is why I'm running a lot of events and actually a lot of activities within the Bangladeshi diaspora, kids and young men and also adults, to make them more aware, more resilient, and do more social work, get involved environmentally, do litter picking, and also talk about the energy efficiency, and not to indulge in misusing the energy, thereby polluting the environment. Yes, there are a lot of things we can do in our small way, and if we all do a little bit, and then it's going to be a very big one, and we will probably achieve the carbon emission target that the government has set up to 2030. So I think we all ought to play a little role to achieve that.
Imran Chowdhury BEM, I think I'm going to leave it there on that positive message. Thank you so much, and good luck with the rest of your local government career. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonny. I'm really honored. Thank you very much for having me in your show.
Thanks to our guests, and thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, hit subscribe now. Alternatively, you can support our mission by checking out in the show notes below, where you can rate, donate, or become our mate. Thank you. If you've been inspired as much as me by Imran's story, then be sure to head over to campaignforce.co.uk and sign up for our mailing list, where you'll get news about events, future podcast episodes, and everything you need to know about standing up to serve again.